My guest today was a colleague for many years when I work at CTV News, and I hope he will be a friend for life. He may not realize this, but I've always been intrigued with him and his story, and I'm sure he's kind of laughing or frowning at me right now as I say that, because that's the kind of guy he is. But here's the truth. I remember when I first started working with him at CTV News, he kind of stopped me in my tracks because he was just so high on life. I mean, he really lived every single day. He was always happy. He always took time to talk to me and others. And this is the important part of it. He'd always ask how we were doing. And he is always, to this day, joking around. He has a tremendous sense of humor, and he's funny. He's really, really funny. He has a dry wit about him, and it makes me smile just thinking about it. And full disclosure, before we hit record on this podcast, I mean, my stomach hurts because he had me laughing so hard. He was a sports anchor at her station, and quite honestly, he didn't stay long because he's very talented and his career exploded quickly. He moved on to Toronto and settled into life at TSN, a national sports network, where he does play-by-play for the biggest curling championships in the world, along with delivering commentary for hockey games. And of course, he's covered the Olympic Games several times in his career. What I learned about him in our short time working with him was this. He's a small town boy from Boyle, Alberta. He was born in Athabasca, so we have to give Athabasca some love there. And he honors his roots in a very powerful way. Curling is his passion. His family is his everything. And he raised close to $2 million for cancer research. And here's why. He lived every day to the fullest because that full life was challenged at a very young age when cancer hit him hard, not once, but twice. And then later on in his life, cancer took his best friend. Today, we will dig into it all as I welcome my dear friend, Bryan Mudryk, joining me via Zoom from Toronto with one hell of a beard, Muddy. It's so good to see you.
Number one, what an intro. I was going to send you crap loads of toilet paper already just because it's awesome. But after that intro, I mean, I have to send some wine as well. And number two, it was funny. I don't know why, but I talked to BNN a couple days ago, and John Ehrlichman asked me if my background was fake. I'm like, dude, you should be asking if this is fake. Like, seriously. Like, no, not even me. Anyways, though, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm hanging in there right now, but my day is made being able to see you and talk to you. And in all the years I've known you, I didn't even know you could grow a beard that thick and voluptuous.
Well, I'm not 21 anymore, sadly. I just turned 26, Carrie. And yeah, well, I would sensuous, right? It's not bad. I mean, I'm always pretty thick through here. I could use some Viagra in these parts a bit, but I mean, for the most part, you know, it's been cool. I've never in my life had a chance to grow this, and I told my boss at TSN, Paul Graham, when we come out of this, I say we have to do a few broadcasts like raw. So like my first Habs on TSN, I'm just coming in hot like this.
Hell yeah!
Hey,
with a plaid shirt on. I even like the plaid shirt, and you got some high hair. You got some height to your hair today.
Hey, listen, I have hair. Like this is great. You know what? Considering I just turned 29, to have. And I have quite a few grays, like the old, remember Scott Niedermeyer, like grays in the goatee, but I digress. Anyways, it's great to see you. And
great
they don't
to see you.
Your viewers don't know what time we should have had some Chardonnay.
Right.
Because no time we're actually doing this, right?
I know. Good point. What were we thinking? But why Chardonnay? You're a red drinker.
I am, but you know what? It's summer's coming. I want to golf soon, so I just a cleansing Chardonnay to start the day, and then we could the next half hour we could do a deep red. So
I love it. I'm on board 1,000,000%. We didn't plan this very good, so we should have just gone there. But listen, I'm so freaking happy that you stepped into the inner circle. This is predominantly women, so you're used to this type of circle.
I love women.
Yeah, I know you do.
So
you know, I was always surrounded by them when I worked with you, and it wasn't one, it was multiple. The women love you, Muddy.
Well, you know, I surround yourself by people smarter than you, Carrie, and you will always have a fulfilled life.
Oh, it's good perspective. It's a good place to begin with. Listen, I have to ask you, this is a frivolous question, and I'm always the one that says age doesn't matter, but how old are you? Because yeah, you were like, what, 23 or something when I worked with you?
Yeah, I was at CTV Edmonton when I was actually 21, and I left when I was 25 to TSN. Now, I love this. I don't even know who did this, but so, on Wikipedia,
Mm-hmm.
someone screwed up on Wikipedia and says that I'm born in 79, which would make me 40, which I will never correct. I'm 41. But
Oh,
yeah, I have an extra year. So
you're
there
still
you
a baby. You are still a baby. I'm curious what living in quarantine has been like for you, not working at all. How are you managing with the shift and also with your health? I mentioned in the introduction, you're a cancer survivor, two-time cancer survivor. We'll dig into that later, but have you had to take extra precautions because your immune system must be somewhat compromised from the treatments?
Well, Trump's been talking about bleach. I think red wine gets the COVID out. So that's so honest. But I'm not a doc. I play a doctor on TV sometimes, or the odd time I've told people I'm a doctor. I'm not really a
Right.
doctor. Honestly, Carrie, I'm fine. You know what? My cancer experience was a long time ago. Like anyone, sure, immunity. I've, knock on wood, have felt fantastic. I've been more, I would say, like a lot of people, my mental health I have to keep in check with probably more than my physical health, for the simple reason. I mean, last year I took 120 flights. I was nonstop moving for work between the Montreal Canadiens games, and the Under 18 World Hockey Championship was in Sweden, and then curling across Canada. My summertime, like now, is actually when I actually kind of get to chill out. So for me, it's just, I miss my family in Alberta, as you mentioned. I miss my buddies. I miss the golf course here isn't open yet. Just walking outside and being, around people and hanging, So I've been good. I've been trying to work out. I'm the only guy in history I know that could like re-tear my meniscus, though, doing nothing around the con. Welcome to 40. Like,
Hey, listen, it's life. I'm there. It's one of the joys. Just embrace it already.
yeah, but I'm doing great. I mean, you know what? All things considered, Carrie, I feel lucky. I have my health. I can eat. I have a job. You know what I mean? Like my job. I mean, I don't really have a job right now, but for the most part, I mean, what's to complain about, right? I mean, I don't have loved ones on the front lines. I don't have people that are sick in a hospital. I mean, yeah, I'm away from family. I have a grandpa right now. God bless him, Peachy, who's pushing 90, and he's battling prostate cancer, but he's doing really well. And you can't see them. My mom, my family, my dad, like I can't, my nephews, I haven't seen any family in a long time. And I was supposed to now start to make these plans, and a few have been canceled already to see families. So that's hard. But you know what? All in all, I'm blessed. I'm lucky.
There's that glass half full that I've always known you to have at all times, no matter what. Let's dig into life and family and growing up in Boyle, Alberta. You said born in Athabasca. For our viewers or listeners who don't know where Boyle, Alberta, paint a picture for us. Tell us about it.
If I had to paint a picture of a boil, most people in Toronto think I needed surgery. Like, you're from Boyle? You have a boil. Both. No, it's so I kind of find it's funny to it's a good conversation piece. Boyle is about 850 people. It's about an hour and 40 minutes northeast of Edmonton. It's on Highway 63 going to Fort McMurray. And all joking about Boyle, I was pretty proud of our little town, because when Fort McMurray, and God love Fort McMurray right now with the floods now,
oh my gosh, right?
So when the fire hit, Boyle was a big hub of supplies, and much like COVID, different disaster. People needed help though, and Boyle was the hub. And of course, it was the curling rink and the hockey rink was all where you came if you need, toilet paper, toothbrushes, maybe some canned goods and whatnot. So, and I was born in Athabasca, which is just down the highway. And Boyle is also the hometown for a while of Jay Onray, who I worked with at TSN, and we worked together in Winnipeg for a couple of years as well before I came to visit you at CTV Edmonton for a few years. So Jay Onray and Bryan Mudryk, there you go, Boyle.
Wow,
Alberta.
the big names come from the small towns.
And the craziest, Carrie, people don't believe this, and my boss, when I got hired, actually wrote this in my media release of my hiring. Boyle, Alberta. So Jay's mom, Joanne, was the lead singer of my dad's Ukrainian rock band called the Rainbow Riders. No BS. True story. Can't make that shit up.
That is really good shit because, and I'm going to be honest with you, I read that because I
Okay.
Wikipedia'd you, and I'm like, wow, that is so true to small towns. But what you need to add in there, like from my story, is you went to school with about 18 cousins that were in your classroom, and everybody knew everybody, and that's the beauty of a small town, right? And then
Well, yeah, you're small town, you date a few cousins, whatever, right?
I don't know about that. You can speak for yourself on that one.
Why are you? But you're from a massive family, right? Didn't you have?
Yeah.
Don't you have, like how many siblings did you have? Like
Yeah,
seven?
I'm the youngest of 10. So, yeah, we were everywhere up there, and cousins were everywhere, and nieces and nephews. You know how that goes. Speaking of family, Muddy,
Yeah,
your family, very tight knit. Tell me
yeah.
about your relationship.
Yeah. So my mom and dad, obviously, was very lucky to have them both. And growing up in a small town, there wasn't a lot to do, so they drop you off at the golf course. I got to grow up by a small lake, so my grandpa, we'd go ice fishing or wakeboarding, or you play by the lake, which was pretty cool. So my dad and mom are both remarried. Dad is in Edmonton, or he's in Yuma, Arizona, is where he goes down to snowbird. Mom is remarried, and they're in Boyle still, and they go down to Mexico to kind of get away. And the whole pandemic was tough because I had planned to get down to Mazatlan after the NHL season. The Habs are going to finish up in Chicago on a Tuesday, and then on the Thursday I was going to go down April 1st. Joke's on me. So never happened. Obviously, the rest is history. So it's been great. A big family. You know what? I just memories of Baba and Gigi, and I have, oh my goodness, 15, 20 cousins, and now they all have kids. And so it's quite the ordeal. And you mentioned my charity golf tournament. That selfishly, that was cool to go home. And it was sort of like a family reunion every year. You got to see everybody, and that was awesome. And I have two nephews that live just outside of Edmonton, Tegan and Jesse, and they're a growing concern too. So yeah, I mean, family is, you said it, and you're right. Family is everything, because if you take away all of your stuff, all of your things, and what do you really have left? Like, what do I miss right now? Right? Who do I want to be around? So yeah, so I'm lucky. I'm lucky they put up with me because I'm kind of a shit disturber. So it's good.
But you were always close to them and your brother.
Yeah, my brother too, and sadly we lost him to cancer a couple years ago. We did 15 years of the golf tournament, and on the last year he was our guest speaker.
Oh my goodness.
So
Well, we're going to dig into that later, so don't go into that just yet. But a very tight-knit family, that was always very obvious to me, how much you respected and loved them. And your mom was by your side every step of the way too. Very close
yeah,
relationship, right?
yeah, super lucky. I mean, because not everyone can say that, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone. He had a good place to be a kid and grow up, and
Mm-hmm.
again, it's just part of, yeah, I do feel blessed a lot, and my glass is half full, unless there's red wine, Carrie, then
Yes.
not half full, it's usually empty.
Yeah, I've witnessed that. So I can't even call you Bryan because you're always Muddy to me. So if people are wondering why, I don't think I've ever called you Bryan in my life. So I want to know why broadcasting. What put you on the path to be a broadcaster and a journalist?
I loved sports growing up, and God didn't give me a 95-mile-an-hour left-handed arm. And you've seen my golf game, 90 miles directly to the right. So I love sports, and you know what? Broadcasting seemed like an outlet that you could still be involved with it. You could still push yourself, and as you have learned, and I learned eventually, broadcasting is super competitive.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who doesn't want to be a sports anchor or in broadcasting, who doesn't want to be able to cover the NHL or the CFL or your NBA, whatever your passion is, and get paid to do that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
it's been said 1,000 times, find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
But there's a competitive drive to that, and there's pressure involved, and as you know, there's politics involved, and you have to sort of maneuver through a lot of those things. But yeah, I started out with wanting to be involved with sport and kind of being involved in that, and it sort of branched into, wow, this is like, I enjoy the pressure, I enjoy the drive, I enjoy the competitiveness of it, and a lot of it is kind of like sports. So
Before we dig into Toronto and what that shift was like, I want to dig into what it was like to be, what was it, 16 years old and get a cancer diagnosis. Take us back to that time, how you discovered it, what it was.
Yeah, it was, I think I just, Carrie turned 17 and somewhere around there. Feels like a million years ago, but I'll never forget. So I had a couple baseball tryouts lined up to even play like community college or see if maybe I could get something, some partial scholarship to play. Why not, right? You're a kid, you like to play baseball. I was pretty good. And so I had a couple lined up. I remember getting up in Edmonton. I was in a condo at the time and I felt a lump in my neck here. And I didn't think much of it. And I happened in passing to like talk to my mom about it. And she's like, well, let's just get it checked out before, in case I was going to go to the States or whatever. And I did a biopsy 2 days later in Edmonton. And I just remember coming out of there. I was awake the whole time. And I just remember my parents were crying in the room. And I knew it was serious. And it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. And to me, I'm like, okay, what do I need? Give me an Advil. Like, what do we got to do? That's right. And, you know, soon you figure out how serious it was. And I remember I was so stubborn, typical Ukrainian. I went to one of the tryouts after chemo and I was like throwing up in center field. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can't, like, what am I doing? So stubborn. Come on, Dolly. Stubborn.
Oh God, Muddy. Okay. So when you heard that you went, yeah, give me an Advil, but like, what did the doctor tell you about it?
Well, it was basically, yeah, it was cancer. And when you're a kid, you think cancer is something old people get, right? You don't, and when a kid that's, you know, athletic, 6 days a week, I'm outside running around, chasing something, you know, playing baseball, volleyball, high school, name a sport, right? You know, you did it. And so it was shocking. And then again, you know, so you kind of have your pity party for a few days and you're like, okay, let's put on the working boots. Let's go. What do we got to do? And so instead of doing the baseball stuff, I had applied and I got accepted to NAIT for the January start time for the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, for people that don't know, and they had a radio and television broadcasting 2-year diploma. So I got accepted and I had to go to chemo my first day. And so we sent my dad, and Chris Durham to this day, who is still a friend and my teacher, he's like, he pulled my dad aside after and said, oh, you're a little up there to be taking this course. My dad's like, I'm here for my, like, everyone's like 19 years old and the old man's in there, right? With his hand up, Bryan Mudryk.
My God.
So, I thought they would have recognized him from the Rainbow Rider fame, you know, maybe.
Right. The rock band.
Rock band. So he Chris, and I knew it was really hard to get in that program at the time. I think for every 500 kids, 30 got in that applied. So I didn't want to lose my spot. So yeah, it was tough. I'd do chemo and radiation in the afternoon, and I go to school in the morning. So, you know, it was pretty exhausting. When I finished the first round of it, though, I redshirted for the volleyball team and the badminton team, and I curled in a curling team, which was awesome.
Gosh, how long for chemo and radiation? And once you were done, did they say they got it all? Were they confident?
It was 16 rounds of both. And yeah, I mean, that was sort of the treatment that was sort of, and it's funny, and not to get into the whole cancer treatment spectrum, but the chemos sadly have not changed much over the last 20 years. And so this is the concoction that I got, and the radiation, and the tumor was here, and I was lucky.
In your chest.
My chest, it was big. It was, and that's why they couldn't operate, because it was behind my lungs and my rib cage, somewhere in here. So that's why they had to do the radiation and the chemo. And then so after the first time, they're like, okay, yeah, you're great. You know, go live your life. You're 18, 19, right? So I got a practicum in Lloydminster. You know, and my energy came back, and you're young, right? I couldn't imagine, like, I have friends going through cancer now that are, you know, my brother was in his, you know, mid 40s. Like, I can't imagine, you know, back then you jump up but I was sick back then, you know, but I was 19, right? So went to Lloydminster. It was exciting. I did weather. I was a weather specialist, which means you know nothing about the weather. Josh,
right?
But he's actually a meteorologist now. That's like
yes.
Weather it's like CP24 in Toronto. One day you're the weather specialist, then they're the traffic specialist the next day. It's like, what makes you a traffic so you're like, I lied, whatever. I shouldn't tease. I get it. But so I was the weather specialist. No flurries, no worries. Back to you.
Oh, the lines are still there. Hey.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, it was, and I thought it was behind me, and I remember it was a few days before Christmas, and they called me at CKSA in Lloydminster. I was about to go on the air, and it was about an hour before my broadcast, and they called. My doctor said, "Listen, your cancer's back. You have to come back in." And I was like devastated, like devastated. Did the newscast. Couldn't even tell you what well, Carrie, at that moment, you just want to do whatever feels normal. I couldn't even tell you what I talked about that day. The bullshit on the weather must have been real nice that day.
Oh, jeez.
And then I went home and I literally sat in my condo for 5 hours just stewing about like, oh my, if I went through what I went through the first time, like I can only imagine now what, right? And that's scary. That's scary. And, the second time was from, we got a really good chance of curing this. And the second time was more along that 50-50 chance. And so I had to go back to the cross. Now I had qualified with Nate and another team to go to provincials for curling at Lloydminster because I was still eligible to curl juniors. So we delayed my chemo. I took pills, but I had a Broviac tube put in my neck through to my chest, and we duct taped it to my chest so I could sweep, and I got to play in provincials for curling. But the not funny part was the only way work would give it to me off and pay me, I'd have to call in radio reports on my own team. Carrie, we lost every damn game.
Stop it.
Hey, I'm like, another loss for...
Well, curling was a passion for you from a very young age, right?
Yeah, I mean, Boyle, 3-sheeter, probably since I was 8 years old. You go throw rocks, parents play cards upstairs, have a beer. It's small town life, right? Like
totally. I can relate. My mom and dad spent like years up at the curling rink in every bonspiel in town. We ended up as kids in the bar because that's what you did.
It is what it is, like small town, fun, and we loved it. And it grew, and it's, Carrie, I can't even believe when you look back on how things in your life happen for a reason, believe in. But like, I mean, now, like I talk about curling to pay the mortgage, right? It's phenomenal, and it's a sport I've loved, and I sadly can't curl anymore because I have no time. I literally don't have time, but like I miss it and I love it.
But Muddy, take us back to that second cancer diagnosis and what it was like to sit in the hospital and what got you through it. Like you talk about it so matter of fact, which doesn't surprise me one bit, but for those of us who have never lived it, like give us the reality.
Hell, like hell on earth, like awful. Because the second time you're so... Now, the first time you're naive and you think, okay, I got to do my chemo, whatever, and I'll be fine. The second time you're like, okay, this is like legit, like serious. Like, am I going to make my 21st birthday? Am I like, how do those thoughts not creep into your head? Right. So the second time, basically what they did, it was called a stem cell transplant, but my own stem cells. So they did a surgery. They harvested a whole bunch of bone marrow out of my back. And they harvested it, and then they gave me drugs to eliminate my immune system, and then they gave me high intense chemo for 7 days, and then they give you your stem cell back and they hope you live. And that's honest to God how they explain it, because in theory that's... So when I hear now, fast forward to COVID, when this first started happening and people self-isolating, weakened immune systems, I did a little note on social media thanking people and our frontline workers, because 19-year-old me, if I caught a cold, I'd be dead. So I had a mask on, and I was on the 3rd ward of the Cross Cancer Institute, and people, if wanted to come see me, and rarely, like I didn't have a lot of visitors, especially during the really tough times, because I'm now 205 pounds, 6'1", and back then 139 pounds, Carrie. Like it was god awful. Like
God.
You were so sick, you couldn't move in your bed because it hurt so badly because of the drugs I was on to try to boost my white and red blood cell count. You get sores in your mouth because your immune system wasn't able to do what it's supposed to do because it was fighting this other massive fight that it had to deal with. So, I mean, I remember one day, like I was so weak, I just kind of went to the shower and kind of hung out there so that I could throw up and like not have to worry about going back and forth. And I laughed because I could hear everybody else throwing up, and I was like, oh, at least we're playing the same song at noon, like happy hour.
Man.
Big joke. Like, I mean, honest, like if you don't have a sense of humor coming out of that, you're not going to make it, and the one story, Carrie, you asked me, how did I do it, or how?
What got you through?
Well, as I joke, I think a lot like John McClane, tough to kill a Ukrainian, Die Hard, right? Like, come on, like, hey, I'm probably the most stubborn person I know, at least on the inside. I'm very driven. I've always have been. But there was one day I was wheeled out in a wheelchair, and you're so tired, you're like this, and I had a bucket around my head, and I'm in the wheelchair, and I'm waiting, and I could hear my mom chatting this guy up about, he's waiting for a test, and long days, and I remember him saying, oh, yeah, I'm in here. I found a third nut down there, so they had to get that checked out. And I also have leukemia, and now they say I might have another kind of cancer going on. Where are you all from? You from Boyle? That's great. I did truck driving through there. And I'm going like,
oh, my gosh.
Just listening to this going like, this man, like, oh, man, like this poor guy has got more than 99 problems, and I'm sitting here feeling sorry for myself with a bucket around my head because I'm probably going to throw up, waiting for some other test. And I'm like, I actually got a chance. This guy might not see next year, and he's acting like he's talking to my mom like he's got the common cold. And that was just one of many little kind of perspective check marks throughout that situation. And another one was my mom would be up and my dad, they'd be in that third floor ward, and they would meet other parents, and a lot of those kids didn't make it out of there. We lost a lot of kids that never made it through that ward. So I think being determined and knowing that I had just had so much more I wanted to accomplish and so much more that I wanted to live for. And there was about 1 or 2 days in there, Carrie, like I thought, I mean, is it even worth it? Should I just pack it in? Like the pain, and like day after day, it was like, so like, it was a lot. So every day is a great day. It truly is. And that's some Hallmark bullshit card. It's true.
Muddy, how long was the journey in the hospital? And when you came out, they were confident they got it all?
Well, I mean, confidence is a weird word when you're going through it, right? And especially the second time. Oh man, you know what, Carrie? I do have to even double check. My mom wrote a book about it. It felt, I mean, I want to say December. I want to say I was in there for about 2 or 3 months. 2 for sure. 3 might be a stretch, but 2 basically isolated. I remember my dad one night, he put me in a wheelchair and we wheeled down to the parking lot with a mask on to watch traffic drive by. To like remember there's a world out there.
Wow.
Because it's in your little cubicle 24/7. So I really feel for people in COVID and in isolation, our senior citizens, and the tragedies going around our country. Like, I get it. I get sitting in these places and you're scared for your life and you don't know if there's this scary killer that you can't control, and your family's not around. You can't have people come see you and give you a hug and hang out or talk or play crib or whatever you do, right? So I remember getting wheeled out of the hospital. It's my mom's favorite story, and kind of the last time. And I remember we stopped, and I told her at that point I'd raise $1 million for the hospital, and she said, "Put on 10 pounds first." And we sort of had a giggle, and we did it. We raised 1.8, and we were supposed to have a tournament for my brother this summer, but COVID, we had to postpone it. So,
okay, tell us. You left the hospital with that in mind, and with an attitude that you could accomplish anything. I just remember you had life by the scruff when I worked with you. And that's what I alluded to when I introduced you, is that, like you said, every day was a great day. So tell me about the mindset you left that hospital with and the goals that were in your heart.
That was one for sure. I wanted to get back to Lloydminster. I wanted to get back to work. I want to get back to work right now. In 2020, same driving me nuts, and it was great to have those goals. And you talk about family. I remember sitting in Baba and Gigi's trailer out in Skelton Lake and eating borscht and hanging out, watching terrible CBC programming because they didn't have really anything. I remember, I shouldn't make fun of the CBC, but I mean, there was a couple people, like it was either North of 60, Beachcombers, Coronation Street. Was it Street Legal? And what was the one on television, ENG, where Jake, the camera guy, got all the girls and they go live? No, we're going live.
Yes. That was his sexy line, how he'd get the girls, right? We're going live.
He was dating the news director.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Anyway, so the family, and And I mean, Baba to this day, I mean, I love to FaceTime them. They have iPads so we can still talk. And I remember we played a 500, the stupid Nichols game at Christmas, and she's so competitive. I wonder where I got it. And I beat her. I melded out. And so she was stuck with all these cards. She's like, "You're out." And she used a word I will not use on your podcast to me. And I'm crying, laughing. Baba was pissed off. I was out of pierogies for sure for a few days.
Right? No doubt.
Lost so yeah, Carrie, I mean, getting back to work, I went back to Lloydminster, like, to still bald. I didn't even have my hair back, and I didn't care. There are some fabulous shots of me wearing suits. I look like I'm wearing Daryl McIntyre's suit as, like, I'm a kid in grade 5. Like, that's what I look like literally this. It's like.
And you didn't care because
I wanted to get back to work, and I wanted to feel normal, and I wanted to do what I love, which is fast forward to 2020. All I want to do is go back to work. And I'm supposed to have all summer off. I'm supposed to be done in theory, but we missed out on the Habs regular season. There's rumors that if Toronto becomes an NHL hub, so much speculation, but I live in Toronto. I could walk to Scotiabank Arena. I could call games. Let's go.
Right.
So
it's that normal that you want to just get your life back again, right?
For sure. And I think that's everybody, I mean, that's how I was raised. And I, even with COVID, Carrie, I'd rather be at the front. I'd rather be at the tip of the spear doing something than sitting around like tearing my meniscus in my knee. Like, really. So.
But when you went back to work, a lot of people, once they get a cancer diagnosis and go through the treatment, you did it not once, but twice, it's in the back of their mind. It's like a nasty boil, as you put it, and it doesn't go away, and it continues to haunt you all the time. Did you allow it to haunt you, or did you say, screw off, I'm living my life? And when did that 5-year clean bill of health come, and what was that like?
Yeah, it's the toughest parts, and I have loved ones, and I've had loved ones. I look to my brother, and now I have a good friend in Toronto that is going through it, and it's the waiting, Carrie. It's the you go in, take your blood, do a test, and you're sitting around wondering, is this the time I come back that, like, shit hits the fan again? And then every time it's like clean bill, you're like, oh, okay, 6 more months, and you do it all over again. That day waiting around, like, honestly, it's just not fun. It's terrible. And I feel for any family going through that, because the waiting around and not knowing is horrific. And my buddy is going through that right now with his wife and their kids. And it's just like, and we talk almost every day. We really do, because I get it. I truly understand. It's a horrific feeling. And he finishes his chemo, and after a few days he comes around. I'll go hang in his backyard, and he sits on his porch. So I'm nowhere near, nor would I want to go anywhere near him. But to see his face, and I know it's great for him, and we can talk at, literally 20 meters away, just to say hi and see him. And I'll drop off some wine for his wife, or if they want food, or from downtown, or anything, a book, whatever. So it's hard, Carrie. And now, but I mean, I actually found when I worked in Lloydminster, then I got a job in Winnipeg, and I worked with Jayon right there as well. He's a big reason why I got that job, or he helped for sure. And I had to work on, Carrie, on not going out all the time. And I don't mean like partying. I mean, like, because you have just been told that you may not make 21. Now you've been given the second chance. And it's like, you'd be shocked, but I was really shy in high school. You'd be shocked.
Really? I am.
I was the shyest kid. I wasn't very outgoing. I mean, I was if I got to know you, and I was me, but like, it took a long time, and you sort of was like, what do I got to lose anymore? Why not be outgoing? Why not chase after what you want to do? But I also had to remind myself, it's okay to slow down. You don't have to go out every single night and say yes to everybody because if you were missing out. Like, FOMO for me was like a thing, because what if in 6 months my cancer diagnosis is back and I didn't take the chance to do that trip, or I didn't go to that movie with that person, or I didn't meet you for a chance to go do whatever, skydiving. I'm not that person, but like, what if? And in my 30s, I found you got more, it was okay to be quiet. It was okay to relax. And now in your 40s, you're like, oh, I love relaxing. I don't ever want to go out. I want to just chill out and friends and hang out with your golf buddies and do great travel trips. And I did the Douro River last year in Portugal, and Porto and Lisbon. And I mean, sitting in the Algarve by the beach, like, I mean, that is, as you get older, it's the old, right? If you could tell 20-year-old self a few things,
Yeah.
I think it'd be to actually slow down a little bit and just, and enjoy what you've accomplished, Carrie. Like, how many times do you, who is super successful, one of the more successful women I've ever known, broadcasting, and how great you were at it, and then, but actually just sit down in your quiet time, whenever that may be, and have a glass of wine or a coffee or tea, be like, you know, I'm really proud of my kids or my husband or my broadcasting career or what I'm doing now. I mean, we don't do it. I don't think, well, I don't do it as much as we should. And the one thing I've come away with, especially in the last year or two, is like, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, because this thing is so powerful, but you got to give it a break too. You can't set the bar so high. You know, I mean, I got a dog and it pooped twice already inside. And it's like, what am I going to just like, and I'm like so mad at myself. How dare that dog not know I didn't know to take it out. Like,
tell me, since you opened, okay, your dog's name is, and the story behind it is what?
Sir Pop Studley III.
Okay.
So my buddy, Steve, who's going through his battle, they wanted to get a dog. It's a purebred Shih Tzu. So, and their daughter, Lauren, kept trying to tell me, you should get one, Bryan. You should get one of his brothers. They could play. And I'm like, I'd be an awful dog dad. I'm gone all the time. I'm never around. And she's like, you know what? She has a brother, Christopher. And they're like, well, we'd have a dog each to play with. We'll take care of it. We'll babysit. No problem. And there is actually a kennel literally right outside of my condo. Like, wow. No there. So the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it. I have nothing but time right now. I can take care of the little guy. I can spend all the time with him, which is fun when they're a puppy, right? He's born February 19th. Like, he's brand new.
Oh, wow.
And it's been great. You know what, Carrie? It passes the time. I don't watch the news anymore. I'm not worried about the stock market. I'm not looking at, like, I'm playing with him, or we go for a walk, or he sits there and I carry him. That's our walk right now. But, and Pops, because my friend's last name is Popovsky, so I named him Pops, and the kids love it.
A couple of things I want to dig into, and because you've lived it, you can offer some really valuable advice here. And you know, you talked about the support you offered and are offering. Your buddy right now is going through cancer treatment, and I opened this door for conversation because, as you know, I lost both my mom and dad in the span of 4 years. And I think what's most difficult is a lot of people, when you're going through a difficult time, whether it's cancer or death, they don't know what to say to you. And they don't know what to do with you when you're so sad, or when it's obvious you're going through a difficult time. Can you lend your voice and your advice to this journey about what people need during this time?
To feel as normal as possible, I think, to know, and that's the one thing in losing my brother. I know he wouldn't want me moping around. I know my brother wouldn't want me not doing things or living my life. Of course, your parents care. You think that they want that for you? Of course not. They want you to be being the best mom and wife and killing it at the podcasts and doing whatever it is that makes you happy. And like, that's what people that love you want. They don't want you to, and is there comfort in that? I'm not sure. I hope so, because that's what I think about. You know, I'll hear music that he liked or something, you know, and grief's a funny thing. Like, he passed away and we knew he was sick during my first Montreal Canadiens play-by-play duties with TSN. And I got to tell him in person. He was one of the first people I got to tell that I got the job. And he was not well at the time. And he got up out of his chair, walked across the room and gave me a hug. And that's something I'll never forget, for sure. And I got to say goodbye, which is nice. It's awful though to watch a loved one really suffer, because at what point are you actually living? You know, it's like, it's terrible. So, you know, it goes back to being kind to yourself too. You know, you've lost a loved one or you see somebody suffering. They just want what's best for you too. They wouldn't want you grieving and moping around, because that's not what they want for you.
Supporting someone who's going through cancer, what do you tell them?
A lot of it is, I don't actually tell them much. I just hang We talk about him and I, for example, we talk about our dogs, which is great. We talk about the stock market. We talk about golf. We talk about wine or trips, or we talk about the same stuff we talk about cancer and no cancer. And the difference is, if he is having a rough day or wants to talk about it, I'm all ears. But that's the thing, Carrie. I think a lot of the times, like, you don't have to go over there like, oh my God, are you okay? Or you have cancer? I mean, ask them, boy, how are the Oilers doing? Well, no, we know how they're doing right now. No one's playing. Whatever. How's your stocks looking? Whatever. I mean, whatever you talk about, wine, your kids, the weather, if you like a certain show right now. I think you just keep it as normal as possible. When I was going through it, I mean, yeah, it's tough. And I understood that there was like awkwardness to my friends, or they didn't know what to say, or would they come visit? Just be as normal as possible. Say the jokes you always told. And I think that people will appreciate it.
Thank you for explaining that. It's really valuable advice. And I know you live it and it's your normal, but for so many people, they don't have those tools in their toolbox. So what you just gave us really will serve a lot of people in a really helpful way. So thank you for opening that door. Before we dig even more into your brother, I want to talk about and honor your golf tournament. $2 million almost you've raised for the Cross Cancer Institute. And you said you would achieve a goal of $1 million when you finished your treatment. Tell me about what that was like and what you created out in Boyle, because all the big names, you had celebrities across the country coming out to play that course, take over the town.
Barely golfed. It was. It's
kind of the drinking tour, wasn't it?
Well, one of our guests early on said, first you get me drunk, then you make me cry. And he was our guest speaker talking about losing his wife. And, Carrie, we had so many powerful, amazing people, celebrities. But to me, the celebrities, so we started a scholarship early on for kids that were going through cancer with the Alberta Cancer Foundation. We sort of like sought out, okay, how about, because when I was going through it, I still had a rent to pay. I was trying to go to NAIT. I was trying to then go to Lloydminster for my first job, which you're not making a lot of money, in broadcasting, almost nothing early on, right? And so can we help kids out that are going through this? So we adopted a scholarship, and then one became 5 because the need was pretty great, and you don't realize it. And a lot of kids, God bless them, get support. But if you're a 17 or a 19 or a 20-year-old trying to go to U of A or SAIT or, University of Calgary or whatever, it's hard. There's bills. They come in. So they would just have to kind of write a letter and tell what they're going through and what they'd use the money for. And the letters were really powerful and strong. And then it just so happened, it was more by just, it happened, not by any rhyme or circumstance. They would come be our guest speaker the next year. Mm. And I remember one girl, Carrie, it will live with me forever. She had to decide before her 20th birthday, I may get the age wrong, but regardless, to cut her leg off or not. Because she didn't amputate her leg, there was a real good chance that she wouldn't make it. I mean, more perspective, right? And she came up on stage. She was engaged with her fiance, her prosthetic leg. She killed her speech. She was unbelievable, though not a dry eye in the place, right? And she's a doctor now.
Wow.
And there's tons of these stories of these young people that have come. Our first guy, young guy, Tim Buckland, who lives in the Edmonton area, loves golf. Tim was our first scholarship recipient. And to sit around and hang with their families during the banquet or around that time and just to talk, and we'd laugh about chemo or, a funny puke story or whatever. And to get to know their families, to me, and Carrie, they would come back every year and volunteer, and they chose to, because they were getting recognized not for being cancer patients. They were being recognized for what they wanted to accomplish after their treatments. So that's probably one of the more powerful things for sure. Obviously hitting the $1 million was incredible. And like most things in life though, everyone was like, well, you can't stop. And it was during the height, the economy in Alberta at the time was incredible. We had people throwing money at us. We had sponsors. It was crazy. We had Air Canada and Lexus and Velvet, these crazy great sponsors. And we're like, how do we stop? So we just kept going. but you know, we just decided after 15 years, and as you know, in Alberta, the economy is not great. And how can you, it was just tough. How can you ask people for donations when they can't put food on the table in some cases, and the price of oil right now? And it's hard back home. I feel for people in Alberta. I really do. My heart goes, I know how hard it is. COVID, goodness. So anyways, it was a great experience. And I look back at it now, Carrie, and I'm really proud. I'm really proud of that. And that's, and I'll just leave one more little tidbit story with you on that regard. I was asked, and it was an awful year, and the best year, because I got the, you know, to be the play-by-play voice of the Montreal Canadiens. Like, Dolly is like, wow. Like,
unreal.
Insanely excited. I put so much pressure on myself to do a good job. This is like, my brother though was fighting for his life. And it was just an awful year and a really tough time. And people ask me what was my favorite part of that season. There's a young guy, his name is Sam Smith, and he got to skate with Carrie Price in the Montreal Canadiens. And I was tweeting out something like, Sam, you're awesome, buddy. You're my hero. And it was the same cancer that I had too. And I tweeted that out. And that night, me and Mike Johnson were getting ready to call the game. And his dad, Sam's dad's a big Leafs fan, by the way, but he had to wear a hat. So Matt with the Habs says to me, hey, Bryan, Sam's here. Do you want to meet him? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, right. And so we bring him in. I like, hey, Sam, I'm Bryan. That's Mike, whatever. Met his parents. So propped him up on the chair. We put the headphones on him. I showed him like what my prep work, and he got to lean over and see like our view of the Bell Center. And we chatted for about 10 minutes and whatever. And I just told him, Sam, you know what's awesome? I'm like, I had the same cancer that you had. And look at me. I'm an old person now. And look, I'm still doing great. And look how old I am. And he laughs. He's like, yeah, you're right. And I said, can I have a picture with you? He's like, sure. So I got a picture with him, and his parents are bawling. And it was like, and then he leaves. And I looked at Mike, and he just kind of grinned at me. And I'm like, that is maybe the best moment, not of just the Habs season, but maybe like, that was awesome for me to do that. That felt like $1 billion.
Wow. And the gift that you gave back, that's for both of you, that gift to enjoy for a lifetime. I'm sure you had a massive impact on his life as well. Bryan, I want you've weaved in your brother's story in and out a number of times, but I mean, what was it like to get the news that he was battling cancer?
Oh, awful. Like there's not a word to, I was in Florida on a holiday. I was just golfing, and it was like, I don't know, 1 o'clock, and I picked up the phone, and I could tell something was wrong. And instantly you think it's the kids or his boys. And he was kind of breaking up in tears. He's like, well, buddy, I got a fight ahead of us. We have a fight ahead of us. And I'm like, oh my God. And yeah, and he told me on the phone, and I was just like, so he told me, and I listened, and I hung up, and I was just numb. Like, I didn't even know where to even walk. I didn't know what to do. I just sat down. I was outside at the time. I just sort of sat down. I called my cousin Gord, who's like a brother to me as well, and really good friends with Marty, and told him and his wife the news, and just shock. And so much like, then you think, okay, well, what do we got to do? And then as you know, time went on, and I understood the cancer he had, and it was a death sentence. It is incredible that my brother survived. I think 3 or 5% of the population it was in his the ducts of his liver and his pancreas. So I mean, it was he fought like hell. Like, man, I was so proud of. He's more stubborn than I am, and we thought it was life. We really did. He did everything he could, and he had so much to fight and live for. He did his best. And Carrie, to go through it yourself, and then to have to watch, like, I would rather go through it again, I think, than watch somebody else. Like, it's awful. Yeah, it was really terrible. And you think of his wife, and you think of his 2 boys, and you wonder in life, like you get mad, and then you get angry, and then you just get numb, and you just do the full gamut of emotions. And like, I don't even like, I got to say, and I knew it was goodbye, and I think he did too. I'm sure he knew. And I said goodbye to him. And I walked out of the hospital, and I just wanted to put my fist through the wall. And I had to go call the Oilers Habs game that night.
Oh God.
And I was just like, fuck, like, yeah. And then I went to Calgary on the Thursday and called that game. And I mean, we both knew, right? Like, I didn't want to sit around and watch him suffer. Like, you know, I'm going to remember my brother for a lot of like happier times around a campfire, and laughing, and that mischievous laugh, and his sense of humor. And he was the funnest guy in the room. He was so much fun. And he passed when I was in Montreal. And it was funny. I couldn't sleep. I called the game the night before against Carolina, and I just was wide awake at 5 a.m. and I had a flight out the next day. And when I checked my phone, it was my cousin Gordon. He said he was gone. And obviously you're just beyond devastated, but part of me was just so happy he wasn't suffering anymore, because it was just awful. And now, I think about him all the time, and I was so wrapped up in the year and like the work. I've really found I've been grieving differently and later. The funeral is obviously devastating, and it was really hard, and it still is hard. And it's funny, like, I don't know about you and your parents, Carrie, but like I'll be totally fine, and then I'll like hear a Chris Stapleton song and I'll just break down.
Yeah.
and people are looking at me like, are you all right? Or like anything. It could be anything like that.
Yeah.
Hit me out of nowhere, grieving. But I just think, like, I laugh. I could just see him up there with the glass of wine, laughing, going, how's that COVID going down there?
Yeah, no doubt.
Wearing. And that goes back, Carrie, to he wouldn't want you or me, or he wouldn't want anyone moping around.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't. He'd want us to live our best life. And I'll share the slogan he used to always say during his times, and he would say, keep on keeping on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good for these times.
Thank you so much for sharing. And, I can relate on different levels. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I did lose a brother when I was only 6 years old. He was actually hit and killed by a drunk driver. So it was very difficult for me to process loss at that age. I always believed he was still coming home. So when you're a kid, you process things differently. But with my mom and dad, how you talked about 1 minute you're completely fine, and then the next minute you're in tears. And for the longest time, I thought something was wrong with me until I had a long talk with one of my brothers. And he said, Carrie, he said, I know what's wrong with you. And I said, you do? And I leaned in for a diagnosis. And he goes, this is called grief. And this is what it feels like. Give yourself permission to grieve. And it was one of the most powerful things anyone said to me. And how you keep talking about being kind to yourself. And I want to use that as a segue into something that you did on Twitter I thought was so powerful. And it moved me to tears, and it had such enormous impact. And it was on Bell Let's Talk Day, where we are talking openly about the mental health journey and how we need to talk about it more openly. And for someone of, your recognition in our country, to put out the message that you did, to be kind to yourself, and to talk about getting help when after your brother died. Can you take us there and why that was important for you to do that? Because that had massive impact. I think like the retweets on that were in the hundreds of thousands, and that just made my heart so happy. So the why behind that, Muddy?
I think a part of it was what I talked about during that season that I had. You're just so wrapped up in, okay, I got the next flight to worry about. Oh, what if some idiot on Twitter thinks I called a bad game? I mean, now, like, who cares? But like, that's what we're all human, and you have to take time to slow down. You have to take time to be kind to yourself. And I truly believe after the season ended and I kind of had time to breathe again, I felt, okay, I need to start to grieve and as you said, learn even how to do it, because I think I was trying to figure out how to do it. And it was interesting at the time. I even asked myself, like, I don't find myself crying a lot, and maybe that was just my instincts of, okay, I need to be a family leader and take care of this and make sure you're good. How are you doing? And just sort of deal, and I'll worry about me later. But you know what? Worrying about me later isn't a very good solution to that either. And I think there was a lot of aspects to my life. I needed to find, like, nothing was ever good enough. Was that game call good enough? Am I a good enough uncle? Am I a good enough son? Am I doing the right things? Am I a good enough partner? Whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, it's taking the time to go talk to somebody and just shooting the shit, like shooting the breeze. And I had more anxiety going to the first one, but then every time I came out of there, I was like, oh, I feel pretty good. Like, all right, like that wasn't so hard. You're just talking. We do a great golf tournament. It's called Stomp the Stigma at Summit, my golf course in Toronto. And our head professional, our director of golf, is Ian Leggett, who won on the PGA Tour. And Ian is a very strong advocate. So is Belle, who I work for with Belle Let's Talk. And I'm so proud of our golf course and the work that we do. We had a family, and their young guy took his life up at the cottage, and he was like 16. And again, like, can you even imagine like what a person is feeling? So if me like saying, I think the macho guy thing, I hope is toast. I really do. Like, it's okay. Like, it's awesome. If anything, it's the opposite. I think nowadays, like everyone needs help. Like, and it's all right. It doesn't mean like it's wrong. It doesn't mean something sick, not weak. Michael Landsberg says it all the time. It's okay. And if anything, I think it's the new normal to go talk to somebody. I probably don't trust you if you don't go talk to somebody.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. So thank you for shining a big spotlight on that. It was so powerful and so well received. I gotta ask this question. You're living, are you living your dream in Toronto?
I joke, I'm living my dream at the Air Canada Lounge. Seriously, I joke with my friends. What are you doing? Oh, good. You're at the Air Canada Lounge where? Pearson, Calgary? Let's get a drink. Like I am living my dream. But that is the ongoing joke because I'm in Montreal, obviously, so much. My summer times is kind of like my downtime, which is sort of right now. But with COVID, things have certainly changed, and we have what the NHL is going to look like here going forward. I guess curling, which I call, at least it's in Canada, with the Grand Slams that happen, a lot of those are European teams. So I don't know how they sort that out if that's even doable. But in Canada, the Brier, the Scotties, at least those are, it's all in our country. So maybe there's a case that maybe you call curling at some point too, and they're really seeing what they can do with hockey. So more about just standing by, but Carrie, it has been an absolute dream. And I often get asked, and I wonder, and maybe it's a combination of all of them. I think, people ask me the difference between making it and not making it, right? And I really believe that my cancer experience, the drive, where I come from, how I was raised, and you have to have a real want, and you have to have a real desire, and you have to be willing to give up a lot. But it really, I speak for it when it's worth it. Like absolutely, when I walk up to the Bell Center and I walk up the gondola and I go around to the broadcast booth and you see the history of this team and the banners hanging, and the Bell Center is the best office in the NHL. You are right over the ice calling the games. You can see the names in the back of their jerseys. And I say it all the time. It is an honor and it is a privilege to call those games. And it's something I don't, nor will I ever take for granted, but I've earned it. And come with a lot of hard work and sacrifice, but I've earned it and I love it.
Love the way you frame that. I got to go into one more question because we haven't dug into your personal life. And I mean, I knew you, Muddy, that there was always girls. I mean, come on. But now, not married, girlfriend, you're so good with your nephews. You're amazing with all kids. What's on the horizon for you? Fill us in. Give us a little bit of dirt here.
Did I bring the dog? Hey, Pop! Come here, big boy. He's probably peeing on the rug. I'm a dad. I'll have to because he's not playing nice right now. He's probably mad at me because we're not playing ball. But I'll have to tweet out a photo of my new boy. So that's pretty exciting. And I'm Carrie, would you want
it looks good to me. And I know there's a lot of other women who feel exactly the same way, but is it a hazard of the job because you travel so much? I mean, how do you maintain a relationship?
It's not easy. And it's a part of the sacrifice that I talked about. I wasn't home for 8 Christmases covering the World Juniors when I first got to TSN. And that's partly by my choice because I wanted to make that decision. When I covered the Under-18 World Hockey Championship, there was back-to-back years. I was in Sweden, and then I went straight to Prague. And then the other time I was in Russia, and I went straight to Copenhagen. And I was in Europe for 39 straight days. And people would think, oh, wow, you're living your dream. Well, I was like working, 14-hour days every day, calling sometimes 3 hockey games in one day. So, I mean, it's it's a blessing and it's awesome. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, Carrie, but it's a lot. Like you give up a lot. And of course, like, I mean, you look around broadcasting in general, and I mean, you did it, you worked, but you were at least Monday to Friday in essence as an anchor, sort of had a set schedule. My schedule, there's been times where I called 3 hockey games in 3 cities in 3 days this season.
Oh gosh.
Right. And it's like, and that's okay. I signed up for it. I love, this isn't me complaining. It's just, that's just the gig. I found out in Russia 6 days in that I was going to stay for 30 some days in Europe and go. And then my producer would just fly another bag of mine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just, that's the life sometimes. And it's not always like that, but it's what I signed up for. And I love it. And I truly believe, like, you know what, if I feel lucky, because if you can be that passionate about your job and love going to work and really, like, I finished calling a hockey game, and there's been some great ones where you leave the rink and it's either me and Mike Johnson or Dave Poulin, and we have a beer after or whatever. And it's like, man, that was good. Or like, you just like, oh, like we nailed it. Like some OT winner in Vegas or something. And it's like the building was crazy and you had a great call, or it was a great game. And it's like, it's awesome. And then you're mentally drained and you get on the plane and you go do it again. Like, it's awesome.
What's next? What's on the bucket list for Bryan Mudryk?
Game 7, Stanley Cup final.
Okay. You got to come talk to me again when that happens. I can't imagine. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I made a promise to somebody that I'd call that one. So
you did? Okay. Yeah. Somebody special, I'm sure.
Yeah, watching.
Muddy, fill up our cup before we tie a bow on this beautiful conversation. There is a lot of loss in our country and our world. I mean, I've said to so many people that the story we're all writing right now is really extraordinary because, and we all have an individual story. I mean, when in the history of humankind did we ever think we would live through a time where everybody would be quarantined and people would stay home and the world literally would stop? But through that has come a beating on the economy, businesses that are bankrupt, jobs that are lost, people who most importantly should be at the top of the list that have passed through this. Give us some perspective on someone that's been on the edge and came back with full force, and what do we need to keep in mind during these crazy times?
Well, I think number one, you're running for prime minister, and I'll be your running mate. I got too much baggage. I can't run this. You're running the show, and I'll just back you up. So that's fine with this ends. He'll be fine with it. He'll be cool with it. No problems. I think what you just did, a big laugh, because when you laugh, you breathe. And I think laughter throughout my life has been a huge, huge thing. It sounds cliche, but if you really put your mind to something and really believe in yourself, I really think that people can accomplish anything. It takes a lot of work and it takes dedication, but it comes down to this thing, right? Be kind to yourself. And yeah, I'm cranky like everybody else. I want to go see my family. I want to go golfing. I want to be able to walk outside and lick somebody's cheek, you know? Kidding. I don't know. But my point is, find a way to laugh every day. Find a way. If you can get outside, do your thing. I'm not going to tell you to wash your hands. You should have been doing that for the last 40 years. Okay. Who hasn't been washing their hands?
Yeah, right.
And it's just, I guess, perspective. No matter how bad or it feels on a certain day or how crappy you feel, I mean, someone definitely has it worse than we do. It's just, they do. And I think keep on keeping on. That's what my brother would say, and he's right. Try to find a laugh in it. Laugh at the little things, and this too shall pass. It will. It's just really frustrating right now. And when Carrie Dahl becomes the Prime Minister of Canada,
God help us all, and it's never going to happen.
got my 2 votes. Sir Pop Studley and me already voted. You're ahead. You're already in.
Listen, Muddy, I've loved you for a long time as a friend. I have tremendous respect for you. You've empowered me and inspired me in so many ways. The way you lead with your voice and the message that you put out, and the way that you have followed your dreams, sometimes against all odds, but you wouldn't stop at anything. But what I love the most about you is that glass half full attitude, mentality, tackle life no matter what. And I'm so grateful to be able to call you a friend. Thank you so much for stepping into my inner circle today. This conversation is rich, and I know it will impact many more lives. And friend, keep on keeping on. I love you, bud.
I love you right back. And just remember, Muddy and Dolly could be a Ukrainian rock band name.
Yes, yes, it's our next dream. Put it on the bucket list.
Talk. Love it.
Thanks, Muddy.